Hello, and welcome to The Rising Tide, a journey throughout humanity presented by the Kluge Studio, and I am your host, Kluge, to give you this example through today. This idea and work really began with a thought-provoking statement by a friend of mine last year that rising tides lift all boats. My mind kept iterating after that. What happens to those boats that are anchored or in a fixed position? What if their boat was anchored and the water rose? How many people are working their hardest to stay afloat around the world today, only to be run over by those, as the metaphor continues, by their yachts? So I started thinking further about this. And what came about was the idea of painting it. So what would this look like on canvas? With that in mind, for an artist that is very interested in blending both George Seurat, neo-impressionism and pointillism for the detail, and Mark Rothko's color blocking and this emotional voice, I thought, well, what other styles could I do? The curiosity got to me. And what you'll see here is the further work of that. So what is the point of this? The rising tide is about wealth and burden, above and below, perception, reality, privilege, struggle, hope, despair. The original piece I came up with was thought to be above an underwater scene. The upper half was going to be a bright scene, much like Monte Carlo with its gilded hills, crystal blue water, and the oligarch yachts in the harbor, if you will. And at the water's surface, there was going to now be this gray scale below, almost like an underworld of Hades, if you will, where those that were less fortunate, those souls anchored to the seafloor. And I was going to work on depicting the struggle that was there. But then as this artist and somewhat of this engineer, the concept grew into what I'm presenting to you today as a real exhibition. 10 famous artistic styles. 1 large-scale diptych, and the series' intention is to be on display, on exhibit, partnership, collaborations around the world. So let's get through it. I expect the work to be intending to challenge, to provoke, and reflect on inspiring possibilities. During my creative process, this came not just as an artistic journey, but a deeply human one, touching on collective struggles, triumphs, and hopes. And I hope that you will be provoked. I hope you will definitely be entertained, and that you would love to see this in your gallery or collection of the museum. As I said, there are going to be 11 pieces. I'll get into size and scale a little bit later. So the rising tide, let me walk you through the story. Here we go. The birth of harmony. I thought, what other way to start humanity than to think about cave art? You'll see a common theme that comes through here is this loop or sine wave that we showed you at the beginning. Here, man, humankind, lives in harmony with nature. It's sustainable. Our sine wave is the form of the infinity loop. I've already started sketching this out, more details to follow, but we have bison, we have crops, we have the water flow, and you have man that begins to realize there's a harmony of only taking what is needed. The second piece, this style is now done in surrealism. It begins to show the tension of man's accumulation that is all in life, and enough is never enough. The concept and idea here is man's dream, of accumulation. And that, as the title states, enough just never becomes enough. Sitting in the third position is an abstract work. This piece right here, not yet fully complete. There was a little bit more yet to be done, but it begins to show the waves of movement. This piece, the working title is The Rise of Desire and Power. The fourth position is completed, is done in the style of pop art. It struck me on the funny bone with The Comedian. Very recently, this pop art piece was sold at auction at Sotheby's for a little over $6 million US. And I thought, how funny would it be to have color blocking? So you'll have bright pops of pink. The banana, of course, on the top half with that pink, and on the lower half, you will see our vendor and his very humble station. Sitting in the fifth position, here's an impressionistic piece looking at the gilded cage of prosperity. This too has multiple sets of meaning. You see our blue sine wave that comes through the middle, but you also have now in this imprisoned dungeon our Midas, our broligarch, if you will, that is in his own cage. The gold, all the power, everything that they're searching for has really isolated them from love, community, the warmth of outside, and humanity. If you look on the right-hand side, this is a theme that has come up in a couple of other pieces of mine, entitled Je t'aime, a single piece on its own. And what I've done is to now create a little interplay with that heart of its own flower. Heart Hill, as I've named it here, has a multitude of flowers. Each are going to be colored rather dramatically and in bold colors. And the flower shape represents the petals. Man's true self, inspired by Picasso's A Girl in the Mirror and styled in Cubism, man looks at the honest reflection of themselves in the mirror. You can see a little bit of the play here, one with the outstretched hand, the other giving a bit of an angered reaction. But I wanted to show the juxtaposition, the balance, if you will, of what is man's true view of themselves. Are they good? Are they evil? Do they see the good still inside them? And I think this has been a struggle that's been talked about, written about, movies have been done about for generations. But certainly have had fun sketching this out and painting it. You'll see more details soon. The Great Wave off Kanagawa. I've taken now the sine wave, put it into a bit dramatic a formula. On the upper half, you will see peace, tranquility, harmony. On the lower half is going to be very different. You will see the eruption of Mount Fuji. There are ravens off in the corner. You have a balance of the sun and the moon. I've been very pleased with how this comes out. You'll see more of it to be, once again, a little bit later in the production hashtag. Art Nouveau struck me as another style, given some fan appreciation of Frank Lloyd Wright and that Art Deco style. Art Nouveau has now taken our sine wave to a double wave. There are going to be two forms of flower, both as positive love, joy, and the other representing death and decay. I thought this would be, once again, a rather interesting show of the tension that we have here. No collection of mine would be incomplete without some nod to Mark Rothko. And here this gold and black inspired piece by color blocking is in our 9th position of the collection. The rising tide. This originally started off as a concept and just the idea that has now gone into a little bit larger scale. The total is going to be 86 inches by 68 inches, or 218 centimeters by 172 centimeters. What you're going to see in the middle is our sine wave that is going to separate the upper half, the golden Monte Carlo scene, with the lower half, larger grayscale piece. There's so much to go into in the detail, but that 86 by 68, those numbers represent something throughout the entire collection. Just the math, the scale of how things are all interconnected for the two of them. Finally, I want to leave on an upbeat note. The rising tide, futurism style of art. I'm taking the sine wave, and instead of having it run through the middle or in the infinity loop, we're now going to have it shaped much like the J-curve, this term in finance, where you begin to come low, and then you have this dramatic rise, this growth, this positivity, if you will, coming throughout the piece. Concept is still being fleshed out right now. A couple of things I'm thinking about tend to have a black hole or darkness that's on the far right, something that man could yet come into. I'll give more details on those a bit later. There you have it, the rising tide. Please connect with the Kluge Studio on this platform or any of your other favorites. I'd love to discuss placing this collection on exhibit with you. Representations for those that are galleries or curators, certainly open to the representation discussions. And please follow hashtags that you'll see in this and in other videos. Thank you for sharing this 12 minutes with me. Look forward to connecting with you on this platform and many others. Thank you.